Why did you originally reach out for coaching? And if you can remember what problem you were trying to solve.
Yeah. Many years ago, I dated a woman who was a coach. She was a business entrepreneurship coach for other women. She didn't take any male clients. But I was working a full-time job before I started any of my entrepreneurship projects or Young Architect, and I would watch and see how she worked with her clients. And that was when I learned about the power of coaching and the results she would get and how she worked with people. And rather than telling them what to do, it was more about helping them arrive at their own conclusions with that. And so I felt like I got that. I saw that very quickly before entrepreneurship was even a thought in my mind. And then as Young Architect started to take off, I started to see it all just started as let's just see what happens. I feel like most of my story, like, let's just see what happens. And as I started to have success with it and the Amazon business was making money, I started to become dissatisfied with the 9 to 5. And I really started to get that vision of, oh my God, Young Architect could be my full-time job. Wow. Like, what does that look like? And I was blogging for about a year and a half before I ever had that moment. Like, oh my God, I could do this as a full-time job. That'd be amazing. And when I finally got to that point, I knew I didn't have the knowledge, the skills, the experience, even the friends, like my architecture friends. There was no one in my friends or family who really truly understood what I was trying to do, what I was trying to accomplish. And it was, in some ways, WDS, World Domination Summit, kind of opened my eyes to a different world that this information is out there and exists. I met you around that time. I already knew your wife from the yoga community. You were, a part of the insider. I felt like we have a lot of shared vision. I met you, and I remember I always wanted to do the 200-hour yoga class. So I did a yoga teacher training, and a lot of stuff comes up. Well, yes, it's a yoga teacher training. I did so much yoga, and there's so much meditation, and I feel like I really learned a lot about myself in that experience. And by the end of it, I said, after this training is over, I need to figure out how to move into the next chapter, and how does Young Architect become my full-time business. And ironically, I just met this new guy, Michael Naus, who's a business coach, and that's what he does. And I stalked you for a little while. I listened to a bunch of your podcasts, and then eventually I reached out and I said, hey, I think we need to chat. I think you could help me accomplish what I want to do. And we started working together.
Yeah. As you think about your business and maybe life as well, and how that's shifted over time, because we haven't worked together continuously, but you've continued to have and invest in coaches over that time, what are some of the biggest changes you've noticed as a result of coaching?
Yeah. Well, let's go back to 2015 when I first hired you. It was expensive. I really couldn't afford it. It stretched me really thin. And at the same time, I was making money, and a lot of it was just immediately being reinvested back into the business. But I had this moment of thinking like, oh my God, I really can't afford this. I wasn't expecting this to happen, and it kind of get back to that, my ex-girlfriend, one of the things I learned from watching her run her business is that if I really do want this thing to succeed, I got to take a risk. And if I get the return on my investment from doing this coaching thing, it's going to by far exceed whatever the cost is. And so I went with my gut on that, and I pulled the trigger, and I dove in. And what I've learned since is that, well, I've worked with other coaches, I've done other coaching things. The return on my investment from coaching has always been tenfold. And in some ways, yes, I've spent lots of money on this. There's no way I could have accomplished a lot of the things I've accomplished from looking at it from oftentimes just getting out of my own way, from coming up with different products, different ideas. I didn't grow up with a family with parents that said, yes, you can do it. It was, when I quit my day job, I didn't even tell my parents because I didn't want anyone saying like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why are you like, is everything okay? And so a big part of coaching for me was the support and to say, I believe in you and I see what you're trying to do and you're going to do it. And, I got a lot. I've always gotten that with coaching. Um, and I've always, in some ways, looked at it almost as a paid form of mentorship. I'm paying this person to be invested in my success. And well, I've had many great mentors in my life. I've never had a mentor who's been so invested and so willing to step up and help, and as much as my coaches have been. And so, yeah, it's always been the return on paying for a coach has always been. I'd be stupid not to do it now that I look back.
One of my past clients recently said, coaching's the best deal in the world. It's like paying for a business partner without having to give them ownership in my company.
That's a good way to look at it. I love it.
All right. So there are clearly a lot of coaches out there, more and more all the time, which is kind of a cool thing because most people, I think, that are wanting to step into coaching are doing it for the right reasons. However, there's a lot of coaches to choose from. Was there a particular reason that you chose to work with me? And this might be circling back on something that you've already talked about, but I'm just wanting to hear, what was your thinking in terms of like, why is Michael Naus the guy that's going to be your coach versus someone else?
Yeah. Good question. I think there's so many coaches out there for every type of thing. And, I think it's a very saturated market when it comes to looking for a coach. And I had, from my experience of watching my ex-girlfriend, she knew a lot of coaches. I felt, I've even watched other executive coaches and other coaches in the world. I felt like there was you and I had a good connection. When we would talk, it helped. I got a lot of clarity from the questions you asked me from the short time we spent together before we started coaching. I heard someone else say this one day when it was about, and the same topic about finding a coach, and it really resonated with me. It was someone else said, if you're looking for a coach, you should look for a coach who's been in the same position you are and has accomplished the same goal that you're trying to accomplish. And that really resonated with me because I just feel like there's so many coaches out there trying to coach, but many of them haven't always gone through the same experience that the coachee needs to go through. So while you and I are in different, you had a lot of experience with the pet products business. You understood the online business world, growing a social media brand. I was a big fan of your wife's yoga brand, with all the yoga stuff she did as well. It seemed that in some ways, it was almost a no-brainer to that this is my guy. And you kind of magically showed up at the perfect time for me in my life when I really needed you. And, I remember finishing that yoga teacher training. I said, I want to figure this thing out. And this new guy, Michael Naus, this is what he does. He helps people. And the timing couldn't have been more perfect.
Yeah.
I always say too, it's one of those situations. It's like, when you're shopping for a red car, suddenly you see red cars everywhere. I was starting to realize I needed help, and suddenly you magically arrived.
Yeah. Magically. All right. If you could summarize, for you personally, like when you think about what coaching has done for you from a super practical standpoint, what are some of the things that come to mind?
Yeah, I think it's changed. It's in some ways almost rewired my brain and have undone a lot of bad beliefs around who I am, what I can accomplish, what I'm possible of. Coaching has always challenged me. Well, you and my other coaches have always challenged in a really positive, loving way. of really, have you thought about it this way? What would happen if I know this is a stupid idea. What about, you thought about it from this perspective, and kind of forced me to think about it from a different angle and perspective. It's helped me get clear about what my goal. It's forced me to get clear about what my goals are. Coaches don't want to work with me unless they know what I'm trying to do, and I'm very clear about what I'm trying to accomplish. So there's that. It's really helped grow insights and find opportunity and become better at recognizing opportunities for different things. It's pushed me out of my comfort zone. A lot of the public speaking, I'm addicted to public speaking, but I hated it at first. But there was something there. The adrenaline rush I would get after it was over. There was something there, and that needed to be explored more. And coaching really kind of helped me figure that out.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And coaching can look a lot of different ways too. I mean, we've had coaching sessions walking through Forest Park.
Yeah.
We've had coaching sessions on the beach in Mexico. So we've had our fair share of making coaching adventurous and fun.
Yeah.
Which I think is super important from my perspective as a coach. One final question. Go ahead.
Can I interrupt for a second? And then after being entrepreneurship coaching, I've really embraced this whole being coached. And now that I'm starting a coaching business, but I've lately I go to CrossFit every day, and there's a coach there, and I'm constantly asking for feedback and help. I need you to help me do this thing. And how's this look? I have a nutrition coach that I work with now, and he just kind of keeps an eye on my macros and make sure I'm eating right and I'm not going overboard. I have another coach that I work with who this has been going on for 3 years now. There was a period where I was getting really lonely as an entrepreneur. I was a solopreneur working by myself. If I showed up to work, if I didn't get out of bed, no one knew. And so I started working with this guy, and I meet with him 3 times a week, and every Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And I send him my to-do list for the day by 9 a.m. And then we get on a 15-minute phone call, usually not even 15 minutes, 10 minutes. We just talk, and he's like, all right, this is how you're going to get this thing done. What are you going to work on first? And then a lot of times he challenges me. He's like, really? Do you really have the time to get this done today? And I'm like, all right, fine. But, so I have him, and I do a lot of, I've been coaching with you. I've also worked with Danielle, who's helped me with a lot of the public speaking. She stepped in a really big way to help figure out how the conference works and get this thing profitable. And in some ways, so she's played a big role in that. And, so coaching's just been a big part of my life, and no regrets. I think it's been one of the best investments I've ever made in my career.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, your business is an example, I think, of the investments that you've made, certainly in coaching, but also, your investments in taking risks, experimenting with different ideas, being willing to do things, for the right reasons, not necessarily making reasons always about the money, and serving your community. So it's been super fun from my perspective as a coach. That's one of my favorite things, is to get to see the results and kind of that ripple effect of what, my clients are creating in the world, and that impact that's just going out, because for me, architecture is as foreign as Mars. Mm-hmm. And you know what? That doesn't even matter, because it's about the impact and the people, and seeing 188 people in Portland, Oregon, rallying around each other and actually finding inspiration around their industry and their career path. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. One final question, Michael. If anyone were considering hiring a coach, to grow or evolve their business, or to help them overcome a challenge, or, even, I know you've hired coaches for nutrition and things of that nature, what advice would you have for them?
I would say be willing to be stretched and being pushed outside your comfort zone. And while I would say every coach I've ever had that's been really successful working with me has challenged me whether in one way, shape, or another. And while I don't like being challenged, in some ways I've always needed it. And working through what might not be comfortable at times has always been profound on the other end once I've gotten through it. And so I'd say be willing to be uncomfortable and work through, and being open to possibilities. What was crazy was, and people always said, like, where are you going to be in 5 years? 5 years ago, I had no idea. I couldn't have even dreamed I would get as far as I did over the course in that 5 years. So I think just being open to possibility with what could really happen. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, Michael, if people want to connect with you or learn more about what you're up to or Young Architect, where would you suggest they go to find out a little bit more?
Yeah, everything kind of branches out from youngarchitect.com. Okay. So all my social media is on there. I do the Young Architect podcast where I talk to up and coming leaders. That's just, it's on iTunes, it's on Spotify, it's on Stitcher, it's on my website. Yeah, just type in Young Architect podcast. But conference is always at conference.youngarchitect.com. But yeah, everything really branches out from youngarchitect.com. All my social media is on there. Okay,
great. All right, my friend. Well, you've certainly been an inspiration during the time that we've been working together, and it's been inspiring to watch you grow this idea from this really scrappy little bootstrapped thing, wondering how you're going to make money. And just watching you kind of take this, I would call it a pretty deliberate, but also, keeping a lot of room for experimenting and seeing what works, to grow it into this, kind of like this empire that's serving people in a powerful way. So it's been, it feels very much like an honor to be a part of that in any way. So thanks for sharing about your journey today. Thanks for digging in and giving people a perspective of how this whole thing has unfolded for you, and how coaching has played a role in that. I really appreciate it.
Michael, thank you too. I mean, you were a really big part of it, helping me get to where I got to. And, I remember that one day you and I sat down at a picnic table and we hashed out the framework of what the boot camp could be. And here we are 5 years later, and it's this well-oiled machine that's just grown and evolved over time. And so, I've been really grateful for our relationship, our friendship. One of the things I love working with you so much is that when you and I have a conversation, I get a lot of clarity around what I'm trying to accomplish, and I feel like I start to brainstorm and see things in ways that I hadn't thought before. And so, I'm just really grateful to have you and Jill in my life. You guys have been really powerful with my success. So thank you.
Thank you, my friend. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care and live bravely.